So we've got a pretty interesting night here tonight. Ian Gibbs is going to be my guest this evening, talking about his book, Victoria's Most Haunted. So here we go with another Halloween in the middle of May, right? Why not? Why not? Ghost stories are always good. A night of ghost stories I just can't turn down. But unfortunately, I don't have much good news for you guys tonight. If you're looking at the news, it's pretty sad out there. Pretty sad, doesn't even get close to it. In fact, you know, it's kind of personal for me. Right at the end of the show last night, and I mean it was like 12:59 p.m. or a.m. here, Pacific time. And the show was over, and I put my mic down and pick up my phone to see what's on there, and the first thing I see is Chris Cornell has passed away. And God, it really hit me hard. I grew up listening to him sing. He was kind of the soundtrack to me coming into adulthood, and I know it was the same for many other people out there. So he was a singer of Soundgarden and Audio Slave, and also on Temple of the Dog, a sort of one-off album dedicated to Andrew Wood, which was Chris Cornell's roommate years and years ago, who passed away. So he made the Temple of the Dog album just in a tribute to Andrew Wood. Who was Andrew Wood? He was the singer for another Seattle band called Mother Love Bone, which was a very good band. If you've never heard Mother Love Bone, I recommend that you go find one of their albums. They were a lot of fun as a group. So I listened to all those bands growing up. My God, I must have wore out 2 or 3 copies of Temple of the Dog. I would try, and I'd put that album on and just sing every single song. Every single one of them, 10 songs on that album. And even worse about this news is that, well, at first I thought it was a rumor, because anytime a celebrity dies, there's always rumors that circulate. And so I started to see this rumor circulating online about that he had committed suicide. Well, what happened was, so Soundgarden broke up, I believe, in 1997. And Chris Cornell went on to do Audio Slave, sing for Audio Slave, which was him, and then the rest of the remaining members of Rage Against the Machine. And then in 2010, they decided to get Soundgarden back together, and they released another album, a new album. Well, last night, Soundgarden was actually back together, and they were on a tour. They were in Detroit. And they had done just an absolutely killer show. It was really difficult, but I did see some of the videos that were taken from the show last night in Detroit. Excellent show. A lot of people there. I'm sure there was a lot of people happy to just see the name Soundgarden on a marquee again, And then he goes into his hotel room and hangs himself. 52 years old. 52 years old, and he had just an absolutely golden voice. And, some people out there may not know, in Seattle, there's actually this huge sculpture, and it's called the Soundgarden. And if you go there and the wind blows through this gigantic sculpture, it makes these eerie sounds, and that's what the band Soundgarden was named after. So today, people had gathered at the Soundgarden art sculpture at Seattle Park and left many memorials. People were laying flowers out, and I have in front of me a photograph of some of those flowers that were laid at the bench at the Soundgarden in Seattle. And there's a little note. There was a little note by a bundle of flowers there, and it says, "Say hello to heaven." And gosh, that was the first thing I thought of when I saw that he had passed away, and I wanted to post something as heartbreaking as it is. And that was the thing I said, that's a title to one of the songs on the Temple of the Dog album, "Say Hello to Heaven." So, I think that's the best thing we can say to him. If you listen to his music, if anybody out there listened to Chris Cornell's music, and he was one of the best singers. Not only that, he was one of the best lyric writers I think I have ever encountered. I mean, nobody could capture a feeling in words the way he could. It was just like twisting the knife earlier today to kind of go through a bunch of songs and pick one, because I do want to play a song all the way through for him tonight, and I did pick a song. But anyway, on to it. So many people gathered at the Soundgarden art sculpture to pay their respects to him. And one fan who was there pretty much said it. He kind of nailed it for all of us. His name was Chad White, and he came to the Soundgarden art display with his young son to honor Chris Cornell, and his words were this: it's really sad that he could never find peace in his life. And if you listen to his songs and his lyrics, it's clear that he was battling some internal demons, and eventually those demons took him from us. And that, I think, is what hurts the most. So Chris Cornell, he was born and raised in Seattle, and for those who don't know, well, some people might not know, he was part of a group of artists who formed a foundation of what became the grunge music scene, right? The grunge music scene that killed heavy metal in the 1990s, and he was a huge influence, absolutely a huge influence, one of the best singers ever to come out of Seattle, one of the most unique voices many of us have ever heard. And DJ John Richards earlier today at the Seattle's independent radio station KEXP had just played nothing but Soundgarden and Audioslave all day long, and DJ John Richards said, Seattle's son, Chris Cornell, has passed away, and that is the sad truth of it. So authorities say that he hung himself in his Detroit hotel room following the concert, and apparently what happened was his wife had called a friend and said, hey, can you go check on Chris? And they opened the door and found him with a band around his neck. And that was it. No more Chris Cornell. So, it started to occur to me, why is it once in a while, if an artist passes away, that we are so affected by it, right? In many cases, we don't personally know these people, and yet we feel a loss, as if we did know that person, right? So what is that all about? And I found on Twitter, of all places, I found the most beautiful and complete explanation to that. And I just want to share this with everybody out there. Maybe this will resonate with some people out there. And it just reads like this. It says, for people who don't understand why others mourn the death of artists, you should understand that these people have been a shoulder to cry on. They've been our rock. They've been family, friends, leaders, and teachers and role models. And many have taught us what we need to know and what we need to do when times get rough. They help us move on. They push us out of bed. They help us live when nobody else had the time to. Artists have inspired us in endless ways and have been with us through stages in our lives, and we've made memories with them. So when they die, a part of us dies. And I think whoever wrote this is right on the money. Absolutely right on the money with that. And that's true. I can't tell you how many memories I have listening to his music, or how many times I'd be reading the lyric sheet inside one of the albums, like Bad Motorfinger, or Super Unknown, or Temple of the Dog. I'd be reading the lyric sheets and find something in there that meant something to me in my personal life. How many of us have experienced that? That's why we miss these people so much. But on the good side, on the bright side, what they create is always with us. That will never, ever go away. It's going to be with us. Excuse me, I'm really sorry. But it's going to be with us forever, right? And so, I thought I wouldn't pick one of their singles, right? I wouldn't pick one of the singles that everybody knows. I thought the best thing to do would be to pick one of my favorite songs. And this song is called All Night Thing. I don't know if you've ever heard it. It certainly does showcase his voice. He had an incredible voice. And so I thought, as a tribute to him, I'll probably never play this song on the program ever again. It just doesn't quite fit in with the music of the program here at Midnight in the Desert. But Midnight in the Desert is an all-night thing, isn't it? All right, so here we go. I want to share some of the beautiful sound of Chris Cornell singing for everybody out there who may have never heard it. So here we go. Oh, the curse of feelings, right? Yeah, I am cursed with this thing called emotions. My God, that comes off of my very loved and very well used copy of Temple of the Dog. There, I think this is probably my 4th copy. And in the wormhole, actually, this is good timing to play that song because here in the wormhole, I have a message from Kamintosh. And he said, well, by the time you read this, the Space Needle has gone dark at 9 p.m. Pacific time. The sadness in Seattle is sinking in deep. We'll be listening, but we are a little distracted. The lights will be back on in the Space Needle at 10 o'clock. So perfect timing to play a song. But isn't that beautiful? How can you not just love that voice? There's so much power and so much emotion into that voice. I have always loved that song. I was talking to a friend earlier today, and she was asking me, how you doing? You getting ready for the program tonight and everything? And we started talking about this, and I remarked to her that, sometimes, once in a while, there's music out there that will just become embedded in your DNA, right? I know a lot of you are probably thinking of the music you know and love that is a part of your DNA. And Chris Cornell's voice certainly is a part of mine. And earlier today I kept telling myself, well, I got to break out the albums and I got to listen and find that just right song to play for tonight. And I couldn't do it. I could not do it. And oddly enough, I started hearing those songs playing out in my head anyway. And finally broke out my albums and started listening to them, and it made me feel better. It made me feel better to hear his voice again, but it's going to take a while. It's going to take a while for this one. It has hit a little hard. But hey, Chris Cornell, if you're out there, say hello to heaven, my friend. So, back to the business of tonight. Pick up another call here, but we may have to hold this person over the break just because we do have one coming up in about 60 seconds. But on North American Skype, you're on the air, and we may have to hold you over the break, but what's on your mind?
Yes. Hi, Heather. This is Greg from Indianapolis.
Hi, Greg.
Yeah, I don't know if I can do it in 60 seconds. And
I'm not going to make you.
It's a really good one.
Okay. Well, what we might have to do is get you started on it and then hold you over the break, and you can tell the rest of it when we come back.
Okay. My son was murdered.
Oh, my God.
In November 2015.
Oh, my God.
His name was Mark.
Uh-huh.
And he was 27 and a musician.
Oh, my God.
And he was delivering food for a Chinese restaurant. Sorry, I'm kind of nervous.
No, it's actually pretty natural to be nervous on the air. Look, let me confess something to you. Maybe it'll make it a little easier. I'm nervous to come on every single night. And I've been doing this not that long, but a little over a year, so we'll be nervous together. if that's all right.
Okay. Well,
can be
what I
nervous
wanted to
together.
tell you was that I got visited by him after he passed away.
Oh my God. Well,
And
here we actually are at the break. So would you care to tell us all about, when we come back from the break, you'll have plenty of time.
okay, thank you.
Okay. Well, I absolutely want to hear this, and I want to give you the opportunity to tell it. I don't want to rush you. You kind of can't rush these things. But I very much appreciate you being patient to hold out over the break. So here we are. Gonna get a pretty good one when we come back from the break, and I can hear it in his tone is all I need to know. So we will be right back, and we're taking your calls. At this time, I'm Heather Wade.
Hey, Greg?
Yes.
I just wanted to let you know I wasn't just kidding about that. I really am nervous to go on every single night.
Oh, I understand. I volunteered at a radio station in college, and I had 0 listeners, and I was still nervous. So I know the tricks. You just take a deep breath, drink some water, vape a little.
Yeah. What I do is a little mental trick, I guess, that I picked up from Martin. I try to act like I'm just talking to one person.
Right. Exactly.
And it's the only way I really know how to mentally deal with it. Otherwise, I wouldn't even come into this room every night. I'd be terrified. I wouldn't even open the door to the studio. Just, no, we're not doing it. So, I don't know. I guess I'm just looking for any way I can think of to ease your nerves a little bit.
I'm calming down a little bit.
All right. Well, cool. We still have, I don't know, about 3 minutes or so before we're back on the air, but I'm going to go right to you, and you will have the floor, and you'll have plenty of time.
Okay, thank you.
Well, thank you, actually. I really appreciate it. So all we got to do here is stand by. The other callers on the line, if you would, just please stand by. We have plenty of time to get you on if you hang on the line.
Want to take a ride? Your conductor, Heather Wade, will punch your ticket when you call 1-952-225-5278. That's 1-952-225-5278. First-time callers are welcome at 1-775-285-5800. That's 1-775-285-5800.
Well, we're right in the middle of it right now, and I'd like to welcome back my guest this evening, Ian Gibbs, who we've been talking about his latest, Victoria's Most Haunted, all night long. So welcome back, Ian, and we've got Greg on the line, who is about to tell us one. We might as well just let him have the floor. Greg, you are back on the air, and it's all yours.
Thanks, Heather. Like I said, it was a few days after my son's funeral, and the shock of his death had pretty much worn off, or calmed down for a little bit.
Right.
So I was talking to a couple friends on Skype, and I found a bag of his clothes in the garage, and I decided to wash them, and so I put them in the washer, and went and sat at the dining room table and talked to my friends. And a few minutes later, normal amount of time later, I heard the washer stop. So I went in there into the washroom, just across the kitchen from the dining room, line of sight, and just went in there, and the lid was open. So I told my friends, I said, I forgot to shut the lid. So I shut the lid, and it continued on the cycle, and it was still full of water. So it continued on the cycle, and so I went and sat back down at the dining room table and continued talking. And then a little while later, I noticed the washing machine just stopped, and so I went in there and I said, it's time to put them in the dryer. Mm-hmm. And the lid was open.
Oh, it was open again?
Yeah.
Oh. Oh, my.
So I told my friends, I just got a visit from Mark.
Wow. What did your friends say?
They believed it. They were on the same page.
Really? They were, my God. Wow.
I know people, I've told people, and some people are a little skeptical, like, well, you're probably in shock from what happened.
Yeah.
But, and I know it's not proof or anything of the afterlife, but
did it make you feel better?
Oh, yeah, much,
And see, I think sometimes the spirits know that, and they're going to reach out to you in a way that's going to make you feel better. And whether or not other people believe it or accept it or whatever, it doesn't really matter. It's really between you and them, right? I think that's really cool. I think that's great.
I think
I used to make Mark listen to Art Bell with me, and sometimes he would roll his eyes, and then eventually as he got older, he's like, you know what? I think I believe that, different paranormal stuff and conspiracies. So
yeah, right. Art talked about some pretty far out stuff back in the day, right?
Oh yeah.
Wow. Well, I think Ian is right. I think anybody else's opinion on whether or not that's true afterlife communication is irrelevant. Mm-hmm. I think it's just what
I
you
just know,
feel.
I know for a fact. I know it in my gut. It was him.
Wow.
That's awesome.
Well, I got to tell you, the washer lid is not going to open by itself.
Yeah, it's a top loader.
Yeah.
It's manual. It's not automatic.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I hope that he doesn't mind. You're sharing the story on the program tonight. So many, actually, I can't even say so many of them. Every single call tonight has either warmed my heart or just tugged on my heartstrings. Mm-hmm. And maybe, maybe I have an open wound because of Chris Cornell passing, and maybe I'm just, who knows?
Yeah, that kind of touched me too, because of my son being a musician too. He was a drummer in a couple metal bands here locally, mm-hmm. in the Indianapolis, Central Indiana area. And Halibrid and Killed the Messenger. And the fans and the bands helped raise money and friends and family. They helped raise money for the funeral and for his headstone. They put on a memorial show for him, and
wow!
I just really appreciate everybody's help. And we just ordered and purchased and designed his headstone, and it was a big decision, and it took a long time.
Yeah.
To finally do it.
It would, wouldn't it? That's
because it brings a lot of finality to his existence.
Yeah, right. When it came time to send flowers out to Spontane's family, that was really difficult thing for me to do. I mean, I was even avoiding my office because I didn't even want to sit down at the computer. I didn't want to do it because that meant, okay, this is it. And I didn't want it to be it.
Yeah.
It just couldn't be. So I can really understand that feeling. And, that's not one I'm going to forget anytime soon, Greg. Mm-hmm. Thank you so much for calling in.
Thank you, Heather. I think you're awesome. You're doing an awesome job.
Well, thank you very much for that. But thank you more for, you pretty much are bearing your soul by telling this story here on the program, and that means a lot to me. That doesn't just go past me. I guess a lot of talk show hosts, maybe they get on and they put on a personality and that's their show that they're putting on. You know what? Unfortunately, you're getting the real me. It's the actual authentic human being. I've said this a couple of times, but I can't keep track of an on-air personality, off-air personality. That's just too much work. So you get all the emotions of an actual human being, and sometimes when you hear these stories, you can't help but, I don't know, I look at it like this. If you don't feel the heartbreak in that story, then you need to reevaluate your own humanity. Because that was a real one. They all have been all night tonight, and it'll absolutely blow you away. And there's more waiting for you, Ian. So, Greg, again, thank you so much for that. Whew, what a night it's been. I want to take a moment here to thank every single caller who called in tonight. I mean, every last one of you. Clean just blew me away with the stories that you had to tell, and I could tell, listening to Ian, you blew him away too. So thank you every single person that called, and while I'm at it, I might as well thank Keith Rowland for everything he does to keep this program going and on the air, and also producer Michelle, who's on her way to Contact in the Desert. I should also thank Art Bell, Bob Crane, and Joe Talbot. Thank you, everybody. And I want to wish you all a very good night. I'll catch you here tomorrow night, everybody.
I've been looking for the answers. All my life I felt you there. As the world we live in quickens, are we heeding all the signs? Have we lost our intuition? Are we running out of time? Midnight